June 27th will now come to order at 7 p.m. This meeting is being audio and videotaped. If there's anybody in the audience doing the same, please let me know. Okay, all who are able, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Superintendent Kastner, would you please take roll?
Sure. Mr. DeFazio?
Here.
Ms. DiTomaso?
Here.
Mr. Emerson?
Here.
Mr. Farley is at Tanglewood. Mr. Hagmeyer cannot be here. Mr. Hinckley?
Here.
Mr. Lacatelle?
Here.
Mrs. Latazori is not here. Mr. Less is not here. Mr. Peters?
Here.
Miss Paul is not here. Mrs. Tucker? Here. Mr. Wagner?
Here.
Dr. Crafts?
Here.
We have an open seat in Washington. Mr. Bartels?
Here.
And our CBA rep and student rep I anticipate will return in the fall. We have a quorum.
Okay. Are there any, thank you very much. The chair certifies that this is the agenda, and are there any responses from the audience? Being none, we'll move right to the secretary's report, the minutes of the regular meeting of June 13th, 2019. May I have a motion to accept them?
I have a correction.
Two of you, okay.
I was not contributed to the meeting, but I was executing some motions, specifically the warrants, which should be approved by, number one, seconded by Member Wright. There are copies available, and then there's another place in the minutes where I'm seconding motions and ratifications. Thank you.
Okay,
And it should be Mr. Peters. Locatelle and Peters.
That's in two places.
Both ratifications.
Is that what you were going to say as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie.
Sorry.
Thank you, Bonnie. So may I have a motion to accept the minutes with the amended changes?
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of June 13th, 2019 as corrected.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. Okay, financial reports. Will a member please make a motion to approve the warrants?
Move to approve warrant number PR 2019-26 dated June 27th, 2019. Payroll in the amount of $898,606.08.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on warrant PR 2019-26? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried.
Move to approve warrant number PR 2019-26D dated June 27th, 2019. Accounts payable in the amount of $313,710.80.
We have a motion and a second for warrant PR 2019-26D. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Move to approve warrant number AP 2019-24 dated June 28th, 2019. Accounts payable in the amount of $343,502.28.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion about AP 2019-24? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Move to approve warrant number PR 2019-LMP dated June 28th, 2019. Payroll, the amount of $509,189.32.
We have a motion and a second for PR 2019-LMP. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Move to approve warrant number ER 2019-LNP D dated June 28, 2019. Accounts payable in the amount of $152,957.69.
We have a motion and a second for PR 2019-LMP D. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. And we have donations.
Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee accept the following donations totaling $2,750 through the General Scholarship Fund as recommended by the District Treasurer. $300 from Quayle and Associates, $500 from Sally Solari, $250 from Jennifer Shepard, $200 from Elizabeth Shepard, Rabadam, Frank Rabadam, $2,000 from Pittsfield Cooperative Bank, $500 from Kenneth Harrison.
We have a motion and a second to accept donations to the Central Berkshire Regional School District General Fund. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Next week,
This is a scholarship fund, right? And is that all come up together and then invested? Or what's that?
Yes, no, some scholarships are kept separately, but the general fund is one big fund, and we separate each of these out.
Thank you.
we move on to the report of the chair. We still have a Town of Washington School Committee vacancy. And we have some dates to announce for our school committee meetings for the schedule for July and August. So July 25th, we will meet at Nesicus Regional Middle School, and August 22nd at Wacona Regional Middle School.
Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee approve the scheduled meeting dates as follows. July 25th, 2019 in Massachusetts, August 22nd, 2019 in
We have a motion and a second to accept the school committee meeting schedule for July and August. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Okay, those are our dates. Thank you. And finally, the approval of the summative evaluation of the superintendent.
Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee approves the composite score for the summative evaluation of the superintendent that has assessed the superintendent's performance for the 2018-19 school year as proficient.
I have a motion and a second to approve the summative evaluation. Any discussion?
Is there going to be a report or a document so that we can see that?
Absolutely. The Personnel Committee will be meeting in July to come up with the same thing we did last year, where we found themes and we reported them back to the full committee. But I did want to have this opportunity to say thank you to those who took the time to really think about the evaluations and put a lot of good energy into it. It's useful information when there are things that are constructive, and I appreciate the time and effort that went into people who took the time to do that, so thank you. We will report back on the next school committee meeting, okay? Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, subcommittee reports and recommendations. The curriculum committee met last time before our school committee, and I reported out then. We still don't have a meeting set for the next subcommittee, but we do have an agenda item where we would like to talk about special education, and specifically, we'll talk with Gretchen West and Jen Bell, and we can ask really good questions and find out information just as we have from science and ELA and math. So to round out our knowledge base, we're gonna talk to special education. So think about questions you might have. I'm hoping to meet in August. Any questions for me? Thank you. Okay, finance?
So we do not have a report this evening, but we have a tentative meeting date of July 15th, which is a Monday, at 5:30 at Central Office. And then
Was that July 15th? I'm sorry, I missed it.
July 15th.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sign it?
Central Office.
Okay, thank you. Okay, policy. Oh, any questions of? Yeah, Bonnie? Any questions? Okay, thank you. Policy. We have a report?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so, tell me if you can't hear me, but policy subcommittee met, last week on June 9th. Was it June 9th?
That wasn't last week, but is that when we met?
Is that when we met? It was last week.
It was the 19th, not the
Yeah.
9th.
Okay, so like,
I
feels
couldn't be there, that's why. I
Okay,
was
I was
that
like, as I read that, I'm like, that's not right.
we definitely met.
We did, yeah, for a while.
We were there.
So the topics included the following items, of which we were asking the school committee to consider editing two policies. The first being policy 3485, which is the temporary substitute teacher policy. And the other one is policy 6140 regarding homeless students. We're also looking at adding policy 6141, which is educational opportunities for children in foster care, and 6142, educational opportunities for military families. And in addition to that, we would look at amending our bylaws under section 7 to reduce the number of meetings we have per month outside of the budget season. Whereas we would keep 2 meetings for the budget season, and then the rest of the months reduce it to 1 meeting per month. This would be a total reduction of 5 meetings over the course of the year, because we already have 1 meeting in December and November, and 1 meeting in July and August. So, moving ahead, regarding policy 3485, this policy would include adding nurses to the policy and adding a set rate for retired duly licensed. The rate would end up being $155 per day for a substitute nurse. Currently, we pay about $130. And this would align us with districts around us, including Adams, Cheshire, who pays about $175 a day, and Pittsfield, which pays $150 a day. We felt through conversation with administration that this policy was in the right place, since nurses and teachers are licensed professionals and they're currently under the same contract. So, that being said, be it resolved that the Central Berkshire School Committee approve the first reading revisions to policy 3485, temporary substitute teachers and nurses, as recommended by the policy subcommittee.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would make 2 kind of, I think they're clerical, but if you look at 3485.3, says on the nurse's salary schedule, step NB1, I don't think there is a step NB1 there. If the intent is the lowest one and the starting salary, that would be A1. But somebody can check that, but I don't see a step NB1.
Where are you?
So we probably just a typo or something. That would be paragraph 3485.3.
Okay, thank you.
And the second is probably, we want to change 3585.5, where it says, the school committee shall from time to time consider the, but, well, we've added teachers we've added teachers and nurses everywhere else, we probably want to add it there.
second. All those in favor of the first reading of the revision to policy 3485, please indicate by saying yes.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Any noes? Thank you. Okay.
Okay. In regards to policy number 6140, we added the language of adequate nighttime residence to the end of defining what constitutes a homeless student. So be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee approve the first reading of revisions to policy 6140, homeless students, enrollment rights and services as recommended by the policy subcommittee.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
In regards to policy 6141, this is a boilerplate MASC policy that defines the educational rights and opportunities for children in foster care that are in our district. So be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee approved the first reading to policy 6141, educational opportunities for children in foster care as recommended by the policy subcommittee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion regarding policy 6141? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to policy 6142, very similar to 6141. This policy that defines the educational rights and expectations of the district for serving incoming or exiting children of military families. So be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee approved the first reading to policy 6142, educational opportunities for military families as recommended by the policy subcommittee.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion about policy 6142? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Carries.
Okay, and then just to look at the amendment to the bylaws, I explained it earlier that we discussed reduction in the number of meetings per month for 5 of the months in the calendar year. So we would be going from a total of 20 per year to a total of 15 per year. During the months of January through March, which is budget season, we will continue to meet twice a month. The school committee in general, our meetings have become shorter and shorter, and we thought this might be a way to kind of consolidate and make a better use of people's time. If for some reason we needed to add an extra meeting, we could put that in there. But that's about what we discussed. Did we add anything?
I think we looked at attendance, we looked at agendas, we looked at districts who do it with less than 2 a month and made sure we'd be able to, and that certainly if we had a reason, we could add another meeting, but it does seem that we struggled most in April. The second meeting falls on April vacation week. We then tend to struggle in May and June, and it looked like the agendas in September and October could be consolidated. Knowing if we needed to add a meeting, we could, but we wouldn't have one if we didn't. And knowing it could result in meetings that go for a full 2 hours, but that would be more reasonable than two meetings a month that are short. I think that was the dialogue that we had. Mike had.
So, be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee approved the first reading revisions to the district bylaws, Article 3, as recommended by the policy subcommittee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have given this some amount of thought. It's tough for me because probably since the beginning of this district, we've had this formula and it's been okay up until now. I think if we go from 20 to 15 meetings, one would certainly expect that we would have, the school committee would have less oversight on the district and on the administration. probably the school committee members would understand the district a little bit less, get a little less familiar with what's happening in the district. I think that probably each of us would have less of a commitment to the district, less of a commitment to our responsibility or obligations as part of the school committee. And there would be less accountability. In essence, we'd be shifting it even more to the administration. And that, I think that was intended when, under education reform, I think they were very happy to get rid of school committees altogether. The shorter meetings confuse me because you're right, for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, meetings have been very short, and that was, we lost a particular member that tended to ask questions. But I think that there seems to be less engagement with the short meetings. I mean, people ask fewer questions, they do less research. And so that's of a concern to me. So I see all of that happening, and we're, particularly in the last few days, or maybe even the last month, there have been issues that have come up where people have said, and I'm talking about town officials or even former members of the school committee, saying there ought to be more communication, there ought to be more questions, there ought to be more engagement, and suggestions to do additional things. That's what's coming at us while we're reducing the number of meetings. I understand, and I don't know how to vote for this, frankly. You know, I don't like wasteful time either. But I'm not convinced that the attendance has anything to do with the number of meetings. In fact, you know, if we have people that attend 50% of the meetings, they're going to attend 50% of 15 as well as 50% of 20. In fact, they even may be less engaged and less apt to attend. So that's my concern. I understand, I think it's absolutely correct. There's no reason we can't have additional special meetings if the issues on the table require it. So I would expect we might have a few more special meetings. But I'm conflicted on this.
I'd like to respond if you don't mind. You want to respond too? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I wonder also about, you know, this is an interesting year because you're building a school, so I don't know how that impacts that at all, because certainly the school building committee and that sort of thing, so adds to the burden, but maybe those are, you know, less opinion on the school, and that has an impact on just going out.
I don't think the number of meetings has any correlation with engagement personally. I think that what I see happening is that the work being done in the subcommittees really is driving a lot of our committee meetings. And I think that's the way it should be. I can only speak really for curriculum and personnel, but we're doing a lot in those committees. And when we report back to you, there's something of substance. So I'm not so sure about engagement. I think the engagement comes from the work, the subcommittee work. In terms of percentages of absences, yes, there's some people who are out 50% of the time, and maybe that won't change, but maybe it will, because the schedules might be easier to work around if it's only one time a month that people have to come out versus 2. Just a possibility. I like the flexibility that we're going to add to this, that we can, in fact, meet if we need to. But if there's nothing to meet about, and something that we can wait until the monthly meeting, I'm all for that. Yes, Nicole?
I was going to make the same point, that we do a lot of our work in the subcommittee meetings versus the good meetings. And I think another point is if we have a more full agenda with more substance to it, people might feel more committed to attend versus a lighter agenda, where people might be, oh, you know, I have something else going on, I'll put that as a priority over the school committee. They might feel like that one meeting a month is more of a priority.
Thank you.
And,
Todd? I'm sorry.
I just, did you guys take a look at other schools and other districts to see what they do for their meetings? Are they bi-monthly or, I mean, just in the area, what's comparable?
It's split. Lennox is once a month. Most have the schedule we do at least in the summer. Some as well in the spring, especially in regions because we have so many town meetings. And I understand why, but our towns this year are moving more and more to separating out the dates. So there's 6 right now. I think it's likely there'll be 7 town meetings in the future. And then some do. Almost nobody meets more than once a month in July and August, in November and December because of the holidays and whatnot. It's a mixed bag in the spring and in the fall. It's mixed. I came from a district that met once a month except January, February, and March. And then there's other districts right next door that meet every month with the same dynamics, so it's very mixed.
I think I agree with what Barbara said, that we're doing a lot in the subcommittees, at least the 2 I'm on, are doing a lot. And I think maybe with less full meetings, there'd be more opportunity to increase the number of subcommittee meetings that we have. I know those have been hard to schedule,
Yes.
at least since I've been a member of the committee.
Yeah. Is there any other discussion? Okay. So, given that there isn't any more discussion, all those in favor of the, did you read it yet? I'm sorry. You did. Not so long ago. Of the first reading of the district bylaws. So all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Personnel.
At our most recent meeting, we considered a number of items. One of these was the need for a change in the paraprofessional contract that would include a registered behavioral technician. And it's not convenient to change the contract. You can't change the contract per se, except during negotiations, but you can write an MOU. And what we hope will happen is that we will have an MOU, memorandum of understanding, in front of us in July or August that gives some detail to this additional position that will be inserted into the contract whenever we negotiate the new contract. So that's a coming attraction. Another coming attraction is a proposed change to the tool that we use to evaluate the superintendent. We worked on that for quite a while during the beginning of the year, and it sounds like it's radical, but it really is not radical. It's a tweak to the tool. So the tool is ready, but we want people to have the opportunity of reading the tool. And the plan right now is to put it in the packet in July and then vote on it in August. That would give us enough time so that it would be in the superintendent's evaluation next spring. And this superintendent has agreed to go along with that revised tool, and that was what the meeting was. We went over it a little bit, and she's read it before, and we reached agreement on that. So that's a coming attraction. We also considered other things, and that will be considered under new business, and so I'll talk about that when it's time for new business.
So no executive session right now.
And I don't see a need for executive session.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Lycatel? Okay, safety and wellness. Do you have a date?
We don't have a date. We were supposed to meet tonight, but we canceled in lieu of the special program that was happening. So we need to get a date.
They still aren't thunder by doing a safety and wellness event during our safety and wellness meeting.
How dare they? But, yes.
Yeah, let's get a date.
Okay, we'll get a date. Okay, Wacona Building Project.
Yeah.
Peters.
Quite a bit of news. I think everybody saw
Yes.
maybe I didn't, there was an article in the newspaper today about, was it today or yesterday? Anyway, it was about the construction manager at risk. So we met, we kind of completed that interviewing process last week on the 18th. We had down selected to 5 companies, and they came in and they submitted the proposals. And they came in and we interviewed each company. And we selected, from the paper, we selected Bar and Bar. For a number of reasons, they were comfortable with the delivery date. They felt they could meet the delivery date and the resources. Really nice that they have a local superintendent, generally, who lives in Hinsdale, will be on site all the time, so that's a really nice plus for us. And they've got a lot of experience in Berkshire County, so, and they're obviously a large company capable of doing it. So they were selected by a vote of the committee. There was a numerical process. We looked at, a spreadsheet ranking scale. They came out on top in that place. They also came out on top in vote, and they were also the low bidder. So and we didn't know the bids until after the vote. So it was kind of a blind bid with the bid. So that was good news after we voted. So that they were the low bidder. So very capable company. So they were selected. It's now public. We met today. Was a working group meeting today, and the working group meeting today was on interior materials, basically, and the design. They also updated us on the exterior design, because at the last meeting at the exterior design, we pushed back on the design with the big wing that was coming out of the building on the side. It was mainly a cosmetic thing to kind of draw people in. It was an architectural feature, and the majority of the people didn't really agree that that was an attractive piece or necessary, and maybe costly too. We also thought that the trellis was going to be a nice place to hang sneakers during the year, so we thought that was needed to go. So actually, they went back to the drawing board, did some pretty good job on the designs, and came back with a really nice design without either of those features, and the group looked at it and was real happy. Everybody was much happier with this design as it is now. There's actually a lot more space in the entranceway lobby. The way the entranceway is for security, there's a double set of doors, so you go in through one set of doors, and you're in a little alcove, and then you're let into the next set of doors. And that area was pretty small with the original design. Now it's quite a bit bigger, so it's a little bit more functional, I think, for that piece. So we're pretty happy with that. And then the rest of the meeting was on interiors, and there was a lot of discussion about interior materials and some value engineering work that's being done, and discussion around that. But that went pretty well. It was also the first meeting that Bar and Bar was present at, so that was interesting. And coming up, there's a couple deadlines that are coming up. We have the detailed design needs to be done by our next working group meeting and school committee meeting, with the school building committee meeting, which is the 25th of July. So the design has to be done before that. So the estimate can be done, the budgetary estimate can be done for that July 25th meeting. So I think the delivery date on the detailed design is the 18th, and then the budget and the estimate needs to be ready for the working group and the school building committee on the 25th. And then on that meeting on the 25th, we'll have to also adjourn and have a second meeting to approve the minutes, because we need to have another meeting to approve the minutes of the July 25th meeting, so we can get the whole package to MSBA by August 1st. So there's quite a bit of stuff happening between now and the next school building committee meeting. So that's about it. I don't know if I missed anything.
So what's the working group meeting before that?
There was one for July 18th.
Yep.
It was about colors, but it was postponed till after. So it's going to happen after the budgetary process. So they were thinking they really didn't need to do that one next. Incidentally, we had quite a few extra people at the meeting today. I did contact Hill Engineering to try and get them to send an independent architect there, but they're really not an independent architect because they're working with DRA. So I'm going to try and get other folks at those meetings that have relevant experience
experience in those. So the next meeting is color. I'm really not a color guy, I'm an engineer, so it'll be good to have some other people there, color folks that are, you know, that come there to that meeting to add their, you know, independent input. So, you know, if you know somebody who's like an interior designer, or especially has some experience with, you know, educational colors, I don't know, what's an educational color?
What promotes women?
Well, that meeting will be set, that date will be set after the budgetary meeting. So the next meeting is budget, and then the full school building committee to approve that. So that's the building committee.
Wonderful. And has Bar and Bar done any local
Yeah,
schools?
they've done, they haven't built a local school, K-12 school. They have a lot of experience in Berkshire County. And they also have experience in academic, like they're building the science wing in UMass Amherst.
Aren't they doing Williams College also?
Yep.
They're doing Williams College as well,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So they've done a lot of work in Berkshire County. They have a pretty good relationship with the subs in Berkshire County. Maybe more than the others, I don't know, but it's, you know, that was one of the advantages that we came up with for them, was that and the super was local, and that was a really positive thing, so.
What does the construction manager risk do?
Construction management risk is what they do is the risk part is they say they're gonna build it to a maximum cost, right? So they're gonna quote that maximum cost, and then they're at risk to hold it to that maximum cost. So it's, they become they're the GC, essentially, the general contractor, and they contract out the subcontractors and bring them in to do the work. And they manage the whole project from a higher perspective than the individual subcontractor. So they'll build up the building information management system. So they'll take the design from DRA and they'll institute that design, but go to the next level where you'll see CAD drawings of the pipes and where they're run and intersections of the walls. And they'll go into that level of detail, so when and they'll give that details to the subcontractors who'll quote that work. And they're the ones who kind of manage those subcontractors and hire them out and police them, work on the quality. They do the site control, the ins and outs, the screening, the fences, all the safety stuff. That's their job. You know, they'll manage the demolition afterwards. It's interesting. When I was reading about the construction manager at risk with the NSBA website, it's actually a little bit more expensive to use a construction manager at risk. Generally, it comes out to be about 10% more, but the risk, the challenge is we would have to be the GC, or our OPM would have to be the GC. And that means that somebody like me, who is not in construction, you know, would be responsible for, you know, managing the subcontractor, which is really a crazy idea. And what happens is, if you've got somebody who's really good at that, you might be able to save a little money. But what happens normally, more often than not, things go wrong with change orders and stuff like that, and managing those change orders becomes a huge issue for people who don't take the construction manager at risk method. And there's school districts who are just wallowing in legal issues and not getting their schools built because they run into those change orders and legal issues with these subcontractors. So hiring a company like that at CM at risk, I think is a wise choice, and I think that's probably a necessary move for sure. For a
That
school
used to
district
be
like
the
that.
general contractor that did all of that.
Yeah, that's been phased out.
They no longer have a.
Very few GCs left.
So do we go for the bid on the whole thing? Do we put out 20 bids for 20 subcontractors, or?
They'll handle all the subcontractors, and then they'll have to hold to the price that they gave us. That's one of the good things about having the CM at risk. So any change orders shouldn't be passed on to us, correct?
Right. Well, there's a process, you know, if it impacts cost or anything like that, then there'll be a process for the school to actually have a say in the change order, if it changes intent or something like that. But yeah, they manage the bids from the subcontractors because they know what they're gonna put a bid together for the entire job and put that number, and that's what's gonna happen on the 25th. I believe the budget for the project will happen on the 25th. So they'll bid that job, and we have to approve that number. it's gonna come in at the, you know, probably very close to the number that's out there for the MSBA is saying, right? Which is, you know, obviously where it's gonna be, but maybe it'll be less if things go well. We'll see. So, but they are essentially the general contractor for the job, but with a different kind of take on it.
One of the differences is with a construction manager, they don't have their own carpenters, they don't have their own laborers, so they sub every piece of it out. Bar and Bar, however, does have their own carpenters and laborers, just to keep a little bit of that going, but generally, they sub everything out. That's the difference between the GC and the CM.
So at some point, they are going to put out, request bids on all of these subcontractors.
I would imagine they've talked to subs already, just to get an idea of how to put their estimate together.
So at some point, Bar and Bar will give us what the number is. That will be the composite of these 20 subcontractors.
I think, it'll all still be estimates because really just by the 25th, it's just gonna be the design detail and an estimate on the design detail.
Right.
You're not gonna have the subcontractors.
That's right.
That's gonna happen over time. There's early packages, things that are critical to the lead time, that are long lead time items that need to be done sooner rather than later. So those will be the first pieces that are sent out for, detailed quotes. And those are the first packages that the design team, the architect, will put out there, so we can get those things done. Because we really have a really tight delivery for sure. And oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this, that one of the things, the utilities need to be moved before the construction, because the utilities are actually coming into an area that is gonna be part of the construction site. So they're actually, it was part of all the proposals, they were talking about moving the utilities in the spring. That was one of the first things they were gonna do, but we actually are having those utilities moved now, this summer. So it's gonna save a little bit of time next year, so that was a really, a good move on, I think that Skansky drove that. It was a pretty smart move to get that done. It's actually happening as we speak, they're moving utilities. I think the power is gonna be out next Wednesday or something like that, so they're moving gas and electric right now, this summer. So no interruptions to anybody, and it will be in the permanent location, the final school, so it's not a temporary move, which originally in the quotes it was a temporary move, and it was gonna cost the district more. This is gonna be put into a permanent location, so we don't have to worry about moving it again later, which is a really good move on Skansky's part. That was really good, having them involved in it, so. Got that for you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Very thorough. They understood it. Okay, so now we're up to the superintendent's report.
Sure, so I just highlighted a couple things. It's obviously a quite time of year internally in the district, and we're winding down, but we're already starting to plan for things for the fall and for next year. I was approached by Kim Matthews, who's a parent in the community. Many of you may know her. Her son graduated a few years ago, and she does still have a child at the high school, and she really wanted to create a program to give back to the community. So she's looked at many food insecurity programs that are in place in neighboring communities, and is going to pilot one here in Central Berkshire. What it will be is that a backpack that does not need to be returned, so it's like an insert into the backpack, will be sent home on weekends with families who self-identify as having food insecurity over the weekend. She's not looking for a specific eligibility criteria. Basically, if you have identified that this is a need you have, she's able and willing to meet it through the program she's doing. On more lengthy breaks, she'll also be doing things like toiletries and things of that nature. So we have had a sign-up process that's confidential. This will all be distributed through Masochist and then brought to the buildings where there isn't an oldest sibling. If there's an oldest sibling, it will go home with them. But I'm really excited about it. I think it's just an incredible offering that she's looking to do right here, because we definitely have some of that going on in our district. So, and it's not a matter of that once the food's taken home, it's only for the student. There's enough for the family. It's obviously not going to feed a family of 10, but there's something to offset that need. So I'll keep giving you updates on how that goes, but Mrs. Matthews is really doing the legwork and the bulk of this herself, and that's really been her offering to the district. So she's very excited. We're going to start it right away, and I'll give you updates on how that goes. We work a little with the nurses and the administration just to make sure that it goes smoothly. But that was something that she brought forward.
Is there anything that we as a committee can do to help support that?
Right now, she has said no. We have offered to do a lot too. Melissa and I were like, what can we do? She's like, no, this is my thing. I want to do this in order to not create any kind of a burden. She is working with the food pantry, and then a church here in Dalton is giving her space to organize it. She's also getting donations from other organizations, but I will keep making that offer. But she felt she could do this. That this was. She's an attorney as well by training, so she had done some of the permission slips, those kinds of things, and we had looked at them as well internally and shared them so that they were looked at by us.
If I may speak briefly on behalf of the committee, please do extend to her that anything that we can do for her. I've had the good fortune of being able to work with Kim in the past. She's a terrific individual, very hard worker, and becoming more familiar with this particular program, and I think I speak for all of us when I say we put our support behind programs like that. So thank you, and whatever we can do.
I definitely will, and she said too that she'd be willing to come this fall and say how it's going and that kind of stuff when she's up and running. So we definitely will do that. Our Title I summer program really, oh, go ahead.
I just want to add one more bit. Is she working on making this, kind of institutionalizing this, so it's not just going to
Yeah.
die when she gives it up?
Yep, exactly. That's why she's really trying to turn it over to be a donations-based program that has the support of organizations that fund these programs long-term. So yes, and her role is really, and we've offered, but she kind of wants to see how this all rolls out, what the needs are, to put the inserts together, and then they'll be distributed into backpacks in the school. So we have point people in each of the schools. So for example, the high school health guidance was the least, so we also want to be sensitive to students' confidentiality around the stuff so that they'll do it. At the high school, the guidance office was the most discreet way of distributing these, so kids will just know. They'll also go home on Thursdays, because the fair is that if something happened on a Friday, we had a weather cancellation, you can't get it home. But if they plan to go out on Thursday, we have cancellation, we can still get them out on Friday. So she did a ton of research. She looked at Springfield, she looked at Worcester, and she kind of looked at programs that have already vetted it. But her goal really is to kind of do this herself to see how it goes, but then to get it in a systematic way that it will continue. So I'll have her come this fall. She was willing to, and talk with the committee about how it's going. It should be a positive. So yeah, it was surprising that, I didn't expect it to pay for. Melissa and I met with her and we were kind of like, wow. She had it all vetted and prepared. So our Title I summer program is up and running. This is where I think we are unique that we recognize that certainly students need remediation in the summer and support academically, but let's face it, they also want a summer and to enjoy themselves, and social skills are a big part of that. And Leslie has really transformed our summer program significantly. It used to be hard to get kids to get to the summer program. Now we have a very high number of participation, and it's really cool. So they come for an academic component, but then Beckett Outdoor Corners partners with us, so they have a full camp experience in the afternoon down in Beckett, and there's transportation provided. And then the benefit to Beckett Outdoor Corners is the students who are coming to Beckett Outdoor Corners from China can come to our academic program to have that experience, and then our students can go to Beckett Outdoor Corners. And so a lot more buy-in from obviously kids, because you can do your reading and math, but then you're going down to Beckett Outdoor Corners and fostering that relationship. We have had, when the program's over, because we still aren't exactly sure how and how many and how this will all pan out, Leslie can give an update. There have been far more issues with students getting their visas coming from China than Beckett Outdoor Corners has seen previously. So how many students are there from China, we're not as sure as what we've seen in the past. There's been some slowdown in some of the programming. But we definitely, this is in place and it will be happening. I did want to tell you, I think you got the email, the services were today. Mary O'Donnell, long-term teacher, she was here my first year. She was also the social studies coordinator at the high school, passed away. I think some of you may know Mary. know of her, and certainly some of your kids may have had her. So did want to share that. And then we just came from the Equity and Diversity with Keith Willis. He was focusing a lot on kind of self-respect, and that ultimately you can control your actions. You can't always control the others. And what people say or do about you is only defined and only real if you allow it to be. That's a reflection of them, not you. And really talking to the kids in that capacity. So again, it was just one more way for if kids are hearing the message. There's going to be so many different ways to go at race and equity and diversity. There's going to be so many different voices. For some people, it's going to be Ty Allen Jackson who gets through. For some people, it's going to be a book group. For some people, it's going to be Keith Willis. Whatever it is, we're just trying to do as much as we can in many venues. So I did thank Glenn Lagerwell. He brought it forward, and he really spearheaded the program. So Gary Campbell spoke, and Rob was there with his children. Barbara and I were there, and Mr. Wagner. So I don't know if you had any different takeaways.
I think the only thing I'd say is I think the attendance was a little less than
Yeah.
they had hoped. I know summer is tough, but I think the people that were there, and Coach Campbell talked about it, that the people that are there can kind of spread the message, and I think the people that were there, you know, represent kids who play a lot of different sports at a lot of different age groups in Dalton and surrounding towns, so I think hopefully that will happen.
Yes, yeah, and definitely, we talked a little bit, and just that I think that making sure our female athletes heard the message as well, because it was kind of a male-dominated group, which is fine. We want multiple voices, but that the female students felt that they were being talked to as well, because we definitely have plenty of those. So, but again, we want to just be pushing this out in as many ways as we can, and it was really, really another way of doing so, and a positive thing, and huge thanks to Mr. Lagerwall and Mr. Willis who were there, Mr. Hughes and Mr. Campbell. I did send out the memo. I told you that I would send the memo as soon as I was waiting on some personnel changes and updates. I do feel that you should hear it from me that our assistant superintendent is leaving us this fall, which is not what I want to be telling you for many reasons, but certainly as her friend and her colleague, I only thank her and support her. So whatever is in her best interest, I support. She's going to work really closely with us, knowing that it will never be in our best interest for her not to be here, but that whatever happens goes as smoothly as possible, and that's why, being the person she is, she has given us the amount of notice she has. So we will talk about that tonight in new business, how we will handle that. Melissa will be here through the fall, and we'll be working to transition a new director of finance and operations onto staff, but she has taken a position elsewhere. So that being said, please don't. I'm just kidding. We've already had that conversation multiple times. I didn't think so. Still calling you at 6:30 a.m. when my car breaks down.
It's been wonderful.
And the district's in better shape because of Melissa. I think we all are.
We're very sorry to see you go, but we understand. Sort of.
Melissa, when's your final days?
October 25th.
We have a lot of time to commiserate around this in the next few months. So I did that just, again, I am recommending superintendent and assistant superintendent. It's got to be a partnership. We've got to be able to laugh together. We've got to be able to make hard decisions together. We work together incredibly closely. We have an immense amount of trust and respect. I think we will bring on a director of finance and operations with her assistants who will have a high level of competency, but it is my recommendation that the title of assistant superintendent transition to our director of teaching and learning, who I have that relationship with. So you'll hear a little bit about that tonight, and I think both Melissa and I have dialogued about that, and Leslie, and that's why Leslie's title is being recommended to change. So we can talk more about that. In new business, I did list in the personnel update, just so you see it, there's a bunch of just staffing. We've been really lucky. We've gotten a lot of staffing filled. You might recognize some names. A lot of people rejoined us, so people who may have left to do different things but really want to come back and work here, like Joe Kovacs have done so. John Vosberg, you know about. We've gotten a lot of really strong hires who really want to be here. So we're excited about that. Yeah, I know the only other thing I just want to say is I spend a ton of time this time of year doing evaluations, so I feel you, like with the tool. I do a lot of them, and it always gives me, I feel words have power, words have impact. I feel incredibly, in some ways, honored to be able to evaluate the people I can, because I see them every day. I think about how hard they work. I know how much they care about the words that I say. So I'm very cautious of that and conscious of that, while also making sure that we work together to move forward and make improvements. So I just want to thank our administrators who I work directly with, because I've had the opportunity to sit down with all of them and to give them feedback, and also to thank them, and also to compliment them, because a lot of good work goes on here on a regular basis. I've been extremely lucky that I have had a team of close colleagues for a long time now. I hired a high school administrative team when I got here, who are second to none, in my opinion, as men and as educators. We have an incredible elementary team that has only increased in capacity with Annie and Nathan, and we are very fortunate, I think, to have found our long-term fit at Nessicus with Debbie White, who is tireless with the work amongst everything else she does. So I'm very fortunate, and I just want to thank them and our. Is that for me?
No.
You already know how I feel about you. Is that for me? That's why she's not staying. Oh, you want to go home? I thought you wanted to compliment. You wanted to go home. But no, yes, and I want to thank all of you who take the time to evaluate me. The one thing I just want to make sure is clear: this work is hard. It's extensive, and it certainly is all of those things. But I hope it's clear to you. I genuinely enjoy this work. I care about it immensely. And the work is about people. And I genuinely care about it, and I genuinely respect the people I work with. I do believe it's mutual. I get a lot of respect from the people that I work with. And I do everything in my power to give just as much back. We laugh together, we work hard together, and we make difficult decisions together. But I think ultimately, by and large, we enjoy it. So I thank you for continuing to give me the opportunity. So that's it. And you're wonderful. Is that gonna help? Like, you've been there, we tried this.
I'm not quite as eloquent as Lori, so thank you all.
Don't leave.
Right. Okay, well, thank you for those words, and I think we all do appreciate the dedication of the whole group of people, and thank you for leading them. Okay, at this point, any old business? None that we're aware of. Okay, new business.
I have some new business. When you consider new business, you're supposed to make a motion that is acceptable to talk about new business, and that's to protect the rights of those who are not here. And it says that somewhere, I couldn't find where it says that.
Okay, so do we have a motion to?
Yes, I will read the motions that are in the sheet in front of you. Whereas resignation of a key employee was not anticipated prior to posting of the school committee agenda, and timely action is necessary, be it resolved that the school committee considers actions to address changes in personnel.
There's a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
So the two motions, pretty much, Lori has already spoken to that, so I'm not going to add anything to it, except that I dread the loss of Melissa as much as anybody does, and will be sorry to see her leave. Be it resolved that the title of the position currently held by Leslie Blake Davis be changed from Director of Teaching and Learning to Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, as recommended by the Personnel Subcommittee.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Question, it seems, my experience with Melissa has been terrific. It seems like she's mainly our business name for the most part. I didn't know that she was doing some, I don't know what portion of that business management piece was, was part of teaching and learning. So it sounds like it sounds like we're making almost a new role. Okay. We're kind of
No, what we had before was we had Melissa, who was the assistant superintendent, and her area was business.
Yeah.
Then we had a director of learning and teaching and learning, and her business was just about teaching and learning. And she was director. Now we're making a suggestion, a recommendation to, instead of having an assistant superintendent of business again, as the new person coming in, we'll make that new person the director of operations,
Business manager.
business manager, and then take the assistant superintendent title that we really do need, because in Lori's absence, we need a point person. So we'll use Leslie as the assistant superintendent for instruction, teaching and learning.
So in other school districts, the assistant superintendent, are they the business manager or are they an educator?
So it's 50-50, but here, to date, it's always been someone like Leslie. So when I got hired here, I am not a finance and operations person. I was hired similar to Leslie, but they hired me with the assistant superintendent title because Rob Putnam is a teaching and learning guy, and he had been the assistant superintendent. And before him, that was how it had always been done. I came from a district where the assistant superintendent was a finance and operations person. It just, so it can be done either way. I would say someone like Melissa that can really go so far beyond the numbers is more the rarity than having a Leslie. It's more common that your assistant superintendent is a teaching and learning person if you have one. Like a Pittsfield has a couple.
That's what I was going to say. Larger districts have two assistant superintendents, one for business and one for instruction. We didn't want to be top-heavy and have two, so now we're just going to reorganize the way we have it. Does that make sense?
What's the benefit?
Leslie is known, Leslie knows us, Leslie knows parents, Leslie knows kids, Leslie knows the principals. The principals do see this person as someone they can go to in not even just my absence, just as another person who really is a supervisory. I think there also will be a benefit in the pool for director of finance and operations. We're a complicated district to be, Melissa, in terms of finance. I mean, I can't tell you how many times when I first got here, things that Melissa dealt with, we used to say, oh, call the town. Melissa's like, okay, call the town, it's me. So for someone to take the step to us and to take on that role, I think is a lot. I think Melissa's more than capable, but someone who may be in the pool, I think it might widen our pool as opposed to saying, yeah, we want you to be the assistant superintendent. I think.
Will we sponsor as assistant superintendent to get a certificate? As a superintendent?
She's good to
She
go.
has.
Yes.
Oh, she has?
Yeah, she has.
Oh, really?
Lori has her certificate, Leslie has her certificate, and Melissa has her certificate. So we are.
So good, okay.
Leslie.
So maybe we need to. Congratulations, I didn't know you had it.
Certified. Certifiable and certified.
Certified.
Take
There
the
we
job.
go.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Congratulations.
Okay, the second part of this whole process, and the two really are related, as we've talked about. Be it resolved that the school committee requests that the superintendent create and post the position of Director of Finance and Operations. In concert with the chair of the school committee, appoint a representative search committee to advise the superintendent and school committee, and to recommend one or more candidates for consideration for appointment by the school committee, with the goal of achieving an orderly transition of responsibilities as recommended by the Personnel Subcommittee.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, so most of the employment is taken care of by the superintendent, but the assistant superintendent and the business manager are the responsibility of the school committee. We do the hiring and contracting and everything associated with those positions. So that's why we have to consider that. We put in the search committee. Remember, search committee is often used, it's not mandatory, but it's only advisory. And in this case, it's advisory to both the superintendent and the school committee. Hopefully, the search committee will make lead to a better decision, or perhaps do some of the work that's required. We're saying in here that that search committee and the superintendent will bring us one candidate, if there is only one, but maybe 2 or 3, hopefully, that we probably will interview, depending how many there are. And we will have to choose the individual who we want to be our director of operations and finance. So that's why all of these parts are in here. I think, Lori, the why we're considering it tonight is so we can post it immediately, make things happen quickly, so that we will have as much overlap as possible with Melissa. Now that, I think I put that as a goal. That's ideal. We hope that that will happen, but at least we will have done what we can to make it happen.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Okay, are there any remarks for the good of the committee? Seeing none? Meeting adjourned at 8:10.
We'll do adjourn.
Oh, we'll do adjourn. I'm sorry.